So, a couple things I've noticed as I get older, now that I'm almost 60, I mean weeks away, unfortunately, from being 60. A couple of things I've noticed that just don't seem to make sense to me that much anymore and aren't that important. And I think you'll kind of vibe with these too, if you're close to my age or even older, is that you realize that a lot of things that you've been worried about all these years are just not that important anymore. So, first thing I would point out is fashion. I'm not a fashion guy. I pretty much wear the same things all the time, mostly because I like the way they fit or I like the way they feel. I wear V-necks a lot because I feel like I'm being strangled by other shirts. A lot of that's because I got a bigger neck, obviously, because I'm kind of a bigger guy, and hopefully because it's mostly muscle, right? That's what we all think or hope. But I do work out every day. I got a strong neck. I have a big neck, and I just feel like a regular shirt, kind of feels like it's choking me all the time. So I don't wear them. I wear what I like. I wear what feels comfortable. And I don't feel the need to dress to impress anymore. Part of that also is because my wife is not here. I would dress for my wife any day that she wanted me to, in any way that she wanted me to. But I don't need to do that, especially when we're living apart. So, and that kind of leads into my second point, and that is that I just really don't care what other people think anymore. It's not that that it doesn't matter it just doesn't matter to me. That's really what it comes down to. I'm living my life. You live your life. I'm not judging you, and I expect, and I would hope that you're not judging me based on silly things, especially when it comes right down to clothing and lifestyle. I eat pretty much carnivore and protein based all the time. Most people don't live that way. They can't live without their carbs or sugars or whatever it might be. I eat the way I eat because that's the way I like to eat. I enjoy it. It makes me feel good. It makes me recover great, which is why I can do the workouts I do and still do them again the next day because I recover even though I push my limits. But again, it's not about you and I agreeing. It's not about we all have to live and eat and do things the same way. I'm not here to impress you with the way I do it. It's just me being me. And I think we all need to have a little bit more of that. Another point I'd like to bring up that I just doesn't matter to me much anymore, and that is possessions, material possessions, what I have versus what you have. I'm past trying to keep up with the Joneses. I can tell you what that'll do is it'll keep you broke, right? Because keeping up with the Joneses is expensive. And it's not money that as you get old, you have to waste anymore. You need to prepare, okay? Long-term strategies for a long-term life. Just because you're not going to be working anymore, just because you're over 60 or 65 or 70 doesn't mean you don't still want to have a life. And you don't have the time or the money, in my opinion. Nobody really does, to try to keep up with other people's possessions and what they have. It's just not that relevant. And one of the things we realized when we downsized a year and a half ago to move to Florida and sold our house is that we had a lot of crap that we kept that we had no need for. And at first it seemed like it was going to be daunting and hard to give up until you realize that a lot of those things and a lot of those memories you have in the basement are only memories when you see them again and they remind you of the time. If you don't have them out, if you're not touching them, if you're not using them, they're not really useful to you anymore. So trying to keep up with somebody else after that is even worse. So I just don't feel I need to do that anymore. Another point that I have realized is that arguing with somebody who doesn't agree with you is futile. So I've gotten over the point and past the idea that I have to be right. And I think you'll notice this too as you age. It's just not worth the trouble. It's okay to have difference of opinion. It's okay for us not to agree. And I'm not going to waste my time and my energy to try to, convince you otherwise. It's like the old saying that a fly doesn't, or a bee doesn't try to talk a fly into having flowers versus poop because it tastes better. The fly does what the fly does, the bee does what the bee does, right? So honey's better than poop, everybody knows that. But I'm not going to waste my time trying to convince you if you believe otherwise. And many times, even with the facts, people just cannot admit that they're wrong and adapt. It just seems kind of silly. So I just don't want to waste the time and energy anymore. And it's not, a lot of people go with the old phrase that, you get older and you get grumpier and grouchy. And no, it's just, none of these things are that big of a deal anymore. I just don't care enough anymore to try to make you care about the way I feel. It's okay that we're different and have different opinions. Let's move on. It's okay. I think kind of going hand in hand with that is that, I don't feel the need that I have to conform anymore either. A lot of that is going to come, and I think will get even better for me when you escape the job and escape the expectations that are there for work. We get used to having to comply all the time, and we forget what it's like to be human sometimes, and that you can just be yourself. So I'm looking forward to that even more as I move into retirement time. And again, I'm not fully retiring. I'm just changing jobs, changing situations, changing, it's one of those unexpected life events, except that I've planned for it a little bit better, where you can go in and change your insurance. It's just one of those things. It's a life event that's going to change things. And I don't have to conform anymore. Unless I decide to take a job somewhere, then you have to conform with the culture that's expected of that job. But I don't have to conform with other people, their opinions. We can disagree, and I think we can agree to disagree if we need to. And that kind of brings me to my last and final point, is that I don't also want to waste my time on what a lot of people would consider superficial friendships. These are not genuine. And I notice that a lot more when you're in a position where you kind of change jobs. Like I'm in a position where I work that we can post to different job areas and different job situations. So things that are within my skill set, I can change and post into that job if I qualify, because I may want to change my circumstances. I mean, I'm bored, and I do get bored easily with the work I'm doing, only because there is so much repetition to it. And there's nothing wrong with the repetition. That's what breeds excellence, is that you continue to do things the right way. You get better and better. But at some point, it's like, and it becomes mind-numbing, which then turns into mistakes and causes more problems. But anyway, my point is that I don't need to pretend anymore that these relationships at work, for one, because I find that a lot of my relationships at work are just work relationships. We don't meet outside of work, and that's okay. I'm more of a loner type anyway. I like to do stuff with my wife and with my close family and friends. I do enjoy to play golf. When I used to drink and etc. Of course, I was all about going out and doing those other things with other people. But now that that's not part of my daily habits, I don't fit in as well with some of the other groups. And again, that's also okay. We can be different and still be people and still get along. So don't misunderstand my not wanting to pretend that we're friends outside of work be off-putting, because that's not my point. My point is that if it's not a real relationship, you don't have to invest more time in it than it is. Okay? So when I'm at work, we go along to get along, because that's what's expected at work. If you're not at work and you don't have friends outside of work, maybe it's you, maybe it's them, maybe it's the situation, maybe it's circumstances, maybe you don't have the same hobbies. And that's okay too. Anyway, just a few things that I've realized that as I get older just don't seem to matter that much anymore. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you next time.